My name is Jay Cutler. I'm a four-time Miss Olympia. I've won also the Arnold Classic titles, 3 Arnold Classics in a row. I'm the only one actually to hold the Arnold Classic title 3 years in a row. Second most prestige title in bodybuilding, and I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. And I grew up in Massachusetts. The youngest of 7 kids, grew up on a farm. And my brother's still a farmer these days, still raising cattle. So I'm happy to be up here and doing this interview, and I want to thank everyone for their continuous support, and thank you guys for bringing me up. Finally, it's been a long time coming.
Cool.
So I grew up a youngest of 7 kids. I got 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and I started working at the age of 11. We actually had a concrete business. My brothers are still in the concrete business there. They're one of the more reputable people in concrete. So at age 11, I started doing that, but I was an active teenager. I actually picked up a magazine at 12 years old, and I saw a picture of Chris Dickerson, who was a former Mr. Olympia, and that's when I said I want to look like this. And of course, being a kid, you marvel over like superheroes, and you want to look like, you know, Superman or whatever. So I was always intrigued by the muscle, and I actually didn't start training until I was 18 years old, but in high school I played football. I was just really limited what I could do for sports. The track team wanted me really bad, but I couldn't participate in a lot of the weekend events because I was working after school, weekends, and school vacations in the concrete business. And that taught me a lot of dedication. I give a lot of credit to what that did for me because I was forced to get up before school, after school. I was doing chores on the farm, and I hated my parents at the time. I hated my dad. I hated my brothers because there's a big age gap between my brother, who's the youngest to me. 3 brothers were born first, then my sisters, then myself. So I really kind of hated them because I was kind of forced to work, even though they were kind of raising me in a sense. And I ended up working, like I said, any free time I had was spent working while the other kids were going on vacations and doing fun things. I was a great football player. I was a defensive tackle and a running back. I was fast, I had a lot of speed, and I was very muscular because of starting to work at the age 11, working on the farm. I had a very rugged body, and a lot of my sisters and brothers' friends just say, does your brother lift weights? And I never toyed with any weights. No one trained in my family, but I had a really good stocky physique. So I saw that picture at 12, and I remember, in high school, I used to go to like they used to bring me to competitions. We'd have our football team would do these powerlifting competitions, and I would kill everybody in all the lifts, squat, deadlift. I mean, I benched 315 in high school. I didn't even know how to lift weights. So I had a lot of strength too. So for me, it was kind of like an ego thing where I decided at 18 I was pursuing a degree in criminal justice. I was going to college, and I stopped working the concrete. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to dedicate myself to the gym. I joined the gym my 18th birthday. It was 1991, August 3rd. I saved up $300 and I put a membership down at Gold's Gym in Worcester, Massachusetts, and that's when I started my quest in bodybuilding. Although I didn't know anything about lifting weights, I kind of sat and watched and learned, and at the time it was just magazines. So I would pick up scrap magazines at the gym and I would learn. I tried to get a lot of people to help me, but no one would really give me the attention because I was just a young kid that, had a decent physique, athletic physique, but no one really wanted to give me the advice. So I kind of watched how everyone did everything wrong, because that's how everyone trains at most gyms. And I was the kid that if I saw any leg equipment in there, I would do every leg machine, every chest machine, every shoulder machine. So I kind of overtrained, but at the same time, my body still responded because for the first time in my life, I wasn't doing the labor work. I was actually going to college and I was eating. I learned about nutrition. I read about a lot of stuff about it. And for me, fortunately, I linked up with a nutritionist probably 6 months after training named Chris Aceto, who's a big dietitian for a lot of the top guys. His ex-wife was actually second place runner-up at the Miss Olympia a few times. And he kind of took me under his wing and kind of wrote me out a diet, and I put it on my refrigerator. And that's where I really started responding. And I made improvements so quick. Someone coaxed me into competing in a show, and the first time I got on stage, I was hooked. And I placed second at my first show, became a teenage national bodybuilding champion at 19, and the story of Jay Cutler started. The hardest part was kind of figuring out, okay, what to eat. Because everyone's like, oh, you gotta eat peanut butter and pasta to get big. That's what the local guys in the gym told me. So I didn't realize that, the thing with bodybuilding is where, I used to eat big meals, right? you have to eat smaller, more frequent meals. So eating meals every 2.5 to 3 hours and having a good breakfast, whereas in high school I ate donuts and stuff like that, but I burned it off. I was doing a lot of labor work, so it wasn't one of those things. I was actually lean all the time, and I did progress so fast even on this little amount of calories because, like I said, I've been doing labor work my whole life. For the first time I was going to classes and I was eating in between. I remember eating boxes of cereal in between because my budget was limited too because I wasn't making a lot of money. I was working a security job at the time, and it kind of was relative to the field I was getting into with the criminal justice where, you know, I was trying to lead towards like prison work or I wanted to be a police officer. So I would sit inside my vehicle outside, you know, doing the security thing, and I would have my microwave there and I'd have my meals, and then I worked at a golf course and I would do, you know, ride machines, and I would actually eat my meals out on the golf course. So it kind of, I did work that was relative. I was a line cook one time and I was cooking at a restaurant, so I was able to eat consistently, and that's the kind of jobs that I took. Although the revenue wasn't really big to be able to support it, my mom actually helped me a lot. She helped me buy chicken breast. She was actually in the service. She was married a military guy, my stepfather, and they would get cheaper chicken breasts at the commissary, so I was able to get, you know, food from them and not spend as much on the budget. And that's really what kind of gave me the edge. And, you know, nutrition, I'd have to say, was the biggest learning curve, but it really put me to the next level because I learned a lot about it early, and I was able to develop my body like to the fullest potential. There's a lot of off-season to pre-contest weight differences for a lot of bodybuilders. I wasn't one that looked at, okay, I need to bulk up. Like, there's a lot of misconception with bulking. If people think, oh, you need to get fat or out of shape. Although I did put on weight in the off-season compared to pre-contest, which fluctuated probably about 30 pounds. So if I was 300 pounds in the off-season, I competed like 270. And then at other times, like a lot of times in my career, I would be, you know, 290 off-season, I would compete at 260. I think 260, if I looked back now at my career, was a more relative weight at 5'9" for me to be able to, you know, expand. Of course, a lot of it's fluid retention, some body fat, but I prepared for a competition over 4 months. So I always gave myself 16 weeks to prepare, which gave me enough time to slowly lose body fat and retain the muscle mass or make improvements. And the thing is with me, every show I ever did, I tend to actually be more dedicated and more focused on the nutrition aspect and the consistent training, that it allowed me to make improvements. And I think that's really what kind of built me towards the end. And then I was just competing once a year for the Mr. Olympia. After you win everything else, that's kind of what they do, is we kind of move towards the one crown. So for me, it was about a 30-pound swing. I never believed in gaining a lot of body fat. I always had visible abs and cut thighs in the off season, even at 300 pounds. My goal is just a lot of food. And I would eat 1,000 grams of carbohydrates a day, and I would eat 300 to 400 grams of protein a day. So I went by those numbers. So I knew a breakfast, and I would eat probably 6 to 8 meals a day. And the breakfast I ate, I still eat, even being retired. At 44, I still eat the same breakfast. I eat 20 egg whites for breakfast, a couple whole eggs, 2 slices of flourless bread, bowl of oatmeal, a cup of coffee, and it's pretty much the same I ate even on a contest diet. Other meals, chicken and rice, steak and rice, but I would eat 12 to 16 ounces of meat every meal, and then I would eat at least 100 grams of carbohydrates every year. The breakfast, I would have 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates, and the meal after I trained, I'd have 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates. Those should be the 2 biggest meals of the day. So it's all about meal timing. I always say that, but without putting your body over the edge. So you have to keep your body relatively lean. Fluid really didn't matter to me. I intended to retain a lot of water. So for me, the off season, I looked puffy, but I didn't care because that gave me the cushion to be able to train heavy, which was ideal for me. Obviously,